Well, today, as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day under the theme for all women and girls' rights, equality, empowerment, we turn our focus now to pressing issues surrounding women's rights, particularly those working on farms. Despite the progress that has been made in advancing women's rights in the country, many women in agricultural sectors still face harsh working conditions. In today's interview, we're then going to explore these challenges, highlighting the need also for change as well as greater empowerment for these particular women. And Mackay, Women on Farms Project Campaign Coordinator, joins us now to further unpack this. Kara, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for your time and happy International Women's Day. So, women in agriculture, right, often endure long hours, low wages and unsafe working conditions, yet their contributions to food production as well as rural economies remain invaluable. Despite global efforts then to promote gender equality, many female farm workers continue to face discrimination, limited access to land ownership and even exclusion from decision-making processes. So, in your experience, Kara, what are some of the most pressing challenges that these women face on a daily basis? And what do you think are some of the policies or initiatives that you believe could then effectively address these systematic inequalities to ensure their rights, dignity and empowerment, as the theme says this year?
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you. Happy Women's Day to you too.
Thank you.
As you mentioned, the issues women face are multiple. And so I'm going to concentrate on labor for the moment. So agricultural work is seasonal work. So then that means that the women are only employed for a season, and this makes them very precarious. And we've noticed that the seasons are decreasing, so the amount of months women get to work are decreasing. And one of the reasons for that is the increasing use of pesticides. So pesticides makes the harvest shorter. The major problem on farms, I think the root of the problem on farms is also the inequalities that women face due to the unequal power relations between herself and the farmer. So the woman, historically speaking, from apartheid, colonization, women are poor, women are uneducated, they are black, they are working class, and they're up against the mighty farmer who is white, male, and privileged. He has land and he has capital. And in that context, women have very little power to negotiate with the farm worker, and they have to accept very, very bad working relations. They have to accept human rights and labor relations. And what we're noticing on farms is that women are forced labor. They know, for example, that they're not getting paid the minimum wage, or the pesticide being used is going to make them sick. But they have no choice, because if they don't work, they will lose their employment. In some cases, they will lose their home, and them and their family will be evicted. So those are the structural problems that women face. And there are many ways to resolve it, but the one that women on farms, what I would like to mention now is the issue of land. Land is very important. It gives that woman power to say, no, I won't work with pesticides, or I insist upon the minimum wage. And so we put a lot of our focus onto land, and we just want to bring up a question on this International Women's Day that the issue of land in South Africa has to be grappled with. It's not going to disappear. And for farm women, it would be the trick that would change the context that will give them a lot more power.
You know, I like that you mentioned that, Kara, because we know we're still getting reports till this day that there are still farmers who are raping those female farmers that are in their under their employ, or they even pay some of these workers with wine in some of the wine farms. But of course, this is just still some allegations. And you spoke about this very big challenge facing these women, which is, of course, the issue of land ownership as well as usage. Because, Kara, I'm sure you heard, I mean, some women have raised this as a huge deterrent in their progress towards technology-based and even comparative farming, as they often fail to actually or fall to the low end of securing any land due to our historical, cultural practices. Women are often overlooked in any decision-making when it comes to issues of land reform. You also mentioned that, as well as agri-planning. But these are the people that are on the land turning the land, that actually understand how it works. So what is needed to get around these bureaucracies to ensure that women get this very important seat at the decision-making table?
Well, Women on Farms Project is a feminist organization, and we focus on empowering women with their rights and teaching them and empowering them to become activists. So as I mentioned, the power relations are so unequal. So you can just think of how scary it must be for a woman to address a farmer and to stand up to that farmer and insist upon her rights. And that's the context that we are creating and we work with. We empower women to understand, and we empower women to stand up and insist upon. So we're using the tools of activism, which is readily available and freely available, and we're using that, and we're using those tools of activism so that women can contest inequalities. And that creates a layer of activism on farms, and they can use the knowledge that they've earned to empower themselves, to improve their lives and the lives of communities.
And speaking of that, I mean, you also raised another very crucial aspect to this discussion, Kara, the issue of unequal pay, as well as those very unfavorable working conditions. So what are some of the projects that organizations such as yourself are actually assisting with in terms of ensuring policy change in this regard?
Thank you. One of the big ones that it's related to labor, but it's not directly related to labor, is that when women they're seasonal and the minimum wage is what they receive, and when they're not working, they have to rely on the social grants, and they have to rely on child pay, and that must feed the entire family. And as we know, the social grant is not enough to feed a child, let alone a whole family. So then in terms of structural reform, we're also calling for the basic income grant so that women, when they are unemployed, then the bottom doesn't fall out under them. And the consequence of this is great hunger. And it's hunger that the children are experiencing. We're part of a collective known as the Union Against Hunger, and they've done the research, and that they say that out of the 21 million children, 9 million children are hungry right now. And that is an additional burden that farm women must carry, is that they must feed their children with very little income. And so to complement the unequal pay and the working conditions, we're calling for the Social Security grant. I just want to make a personal appeal. Minister Met, she's the Department of Employment and Labor, she's the minister. And she, as one woman to another woman, we've contacted her office and we've appealed to her, can we please sit around the table? Can we please talk about these issues? Because on farms at the moment, we're facing a crisis of non-compliance. The farmers do not follow the law. They do not follow the law, and they do it on a daily basis. They break the law. They break the law in terms of the labor regulations. They break the law in terms of pesticide use. They're spraying highly hazardous pesticides that have already been banned from Europe, and they're spraying them with no protocol, no training, there's no information. Yeah, so I appeal to her, can she please, we would love to work together to resolve these compliance issues, and that will greatly improve the quality of women's lives.
Well, I certainly hope Minister Meth is listening. It is today, International Women's Day, Kara. So hopefully she will be getting back to you with that response on that request for engagement. Good luck. That is Ms. Kara Mackay, the WFP campaign coordinator, as of course we continue celebrating International Women's Day, focusing this time on women in agriculture or farming.